street from the Wolf Iron was for years. I was born and raised there. And when I was a kid, anywhere 6, 7 years old, I would go over Kellogg Light Kids.
Bill, can you hold it a little closer? Yeah.
Kellogg Light Kids, you know, so it would always welcome you over, and you always have to play tricks on you or something.
Sure, that's all.
All the way up.
All the way up.
Is that better?
A little bit.
And he loved to play tricks on you, you know. We'd go over there and he'd get 5 or 6 of us lined up and have a drag saw that they just put together on the bench over there. And he'd say, "Come here, kids," and he'd get us all lined up, hand in hand, you know, and hang on to the spark plug wire, you know, crank, you know, and he'd get a big kick out of it. But about the second time we'd get wise, he couldn't do that. Then he came up with a new trick. He said he had a fluorescent tube about 3 or 4 feet long. He'd take it outside there in front, and get 2 or 3 of us there, and he'd say, "Now look up there and you can see the stars and the moon real clear through this." And he'd hand it to us the other way around, and he'd drill the hole in the other end, and it was full of water. He'd dip it up. But I spent quite a bit of time over in the shop. I watched a lot of that old machinery run, and watch him put the drag saws together, and watch him haul them down to boards. But the biggest thrill I think I can ever remember is when he got that new Dodge truck. He had an old, it was probably an old Chevy, somewhere around 36 in that area. And he bought that new Dodge, and we let me get up in there, and it had vacuum brakes in it. And I could push the brake pedal in to go like that, with that vacuum. Boy, that was the best thing ever. He'd let me drive around. Even when I was 6, 7 years old, he had a cabin up there on where the Sandy and Salmon River came together in Brightwood. And he took me up there 2 or 3 times and let me go fishing up there. He had me walk in that cabin. It was really quite a thrill when I was young. But Kellogg had I don't know what relation it was, a Hess that worked in the shop for as long as I can ever remember. And he was the one that basically assembled the drag saws. And then later on, when they started doing the Wade Rain fittings for the irrigation systems, he did almost all the machinery on that. But yeah, I can remember the old machinery in there. He didn't use it a lot when I was there because they had other lathes and milling stuff in the other shop. But you'd run it once in a while, hear the old bells go slap, 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 you know. And he had his little stick that he'd stop the lathe wheels from turning, you know, because you'd stick the stick in there to slow everything down so you could change the fittings or whatever you had in the lathe. But other than that, yeah, it was great. I'm trying to dig up some pictures of the shop on the outside. I have one that I'm going to get. But other than that, if there's any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try to answer them.
How long was that shop open? When do you think you closed it down?
The shop closed down when Kellogg retired, and Bob Dietrich bought the place. He's related somewhere, I'm not sure how. I think probably to Kellogg's wife, Ruth. But he got the house and the shop. He lived there for probably 10 years. He redid the whole house, remodeled it, and the shop, he jacked part of the shop up, put foundation under it, put siding on it, put a new roof on it, and did a lot of outside work on it. Made it a lot nicer.
But they were manufacturing saws up until when? The early 50s sometime? Or?
Probably early 50s, yeah, because like I said, after I was 7, 8 years old, I didn't go over there a lot because I was in school, but it seems to me that's about when the last loads went out there, 50, 52, somewhere in that area.
Was there a sign on the building?
Yes, there was on the front.
What did it look like?
It was, the old building was shiplap, and it was weathered, really weathered. And the sign was probably 8 feet long, about that high, and it did say Wolf Ironworks on it. It was weathered.
Just straight block lettering or nothing fancy? Or
Nothing fancy, no, straight block lettering.
He's hoping he can find a picture that shows.
I'm trying to find a picture of that sign.
Cool. Because we'd like to put up another sign above the roof line so people can see it off the corner. And it would be nice to try to match as close to the original as possible.
Yeah, because it had I think it was on a metal plate, but then it had a wood framework around it. And like I said, it was pretty well weathered. Yes.
Where did they get the castings for the engine that they?
You know,
they did the
I
machine
don't
work?
know who did the engine castings, I don't have the slightest idea. But I can see them, they have the little water jacket around the front, the plug was in the front, and the little flywheel on the side. But who cast them, I have no idea.
Because there was no sign of any casting stuff at the shop. Somebody
No,
cast them
I don't
and
even,
then they
I
did
don't
all the
even know
machining.
where the patterns went, or if he had some other, if he bought them from some
We
manufacturer.
got some patterns, but when we got the shop, because there was some still in there,
Yeah.
but not for everything, I don't believe.
Because he could have bought those engines from some manufacturer too.
Yeah, although they're different than everything else by a little ways, I believe.
Yeah.
They could have come from Electric Steel Foundry.
I could have,
They were was at that time, one of the biggest foundries in Portland.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when did they get into building, you said the wave rain stuff?
That was right directly after the drag saws went down. They started right in on the weight grain fittings.
Yeah, so they had some relationship with Wade, even though probably before that they were competitors because Wade was building drag saws too.
Yeah, they must have made it, I got that, whatever the problem was, settled because like I said, he did that for years on the weight grain.
So do you know when they started that shop?
I don't know. It was before my time, as far as the little shop in the garage.
Yeah.
What kind of memories do you have of them actually machining parts? Were they machining like flywheels and other?
That, you know, I can't remember much of that, because I remember the saws. But I've seen them run the machinery, but what they were making, I can't really tell you. How much of that, I don't know what they bought as far as already manufactured from a vendor, and how much they made right there, I don't know. But somebody had to make the saws for them. Because I never did see them ever manufacture a regular saw in the shop there.
Go ahead and talk, Ken.
I have here 1942 Western Steel cast.
Western Steel.
Western Steel cast.
Okay.
Electric Steel did the engines?
1942, well, it has clutch fork and sprockets.
And you said Western castings or?
Western Steel cast.
Okay. Interesting.
And then they would do all the machine work there,
And
on
so-
all these components and assembly
Yeah.
the engines there.
On the early ones that were wood framed, do you know if they had their own wood tooling in there that they built the wood frames? Because there was no sign of any woodworking stuff in there that we got.
I can't tell you that, I don't know, I don't ever remember seeing building a wood frame in
Yeah,
there.
because the real early ones were wood frame. Matter of fact, Wayne Yoder's got a real nice one. And there's a few of those around, but most of them are the steel framed ones.
Yeah, all the ones I remember were the steel frames.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Did he build anything else?
You know, he did machine work, outside machine work for a lot of different people. What it was, I don't know. 'Cause
I mean, like, as a kid growing up, were you into the motorcycles or motorized go-karts or anything? And did he tinker on any of that stuff with you guys, or?
no, it was all machine work. As far as bicycles or motorcycles or brake drums, stuff like that, I never saw that.
What year did Kellogg sell it to the other guy?
To Bob
Yeah.
Dietrich, probably in the early 80s.
Oh, really? So Kellogg was still alive then?
Probably, yeah, because I can't tell you for sure, but Dietrich lived there for 10, 12 years probably.
Okay, so they were always manufacturing something up until that point then,
When Bob bought the place, it shut down.
but Kellogg was
You
always,
know, I think maybe Cal worked there for a short time on whatever they were doing. But I can't tell you exactly when Cal retired either.
yeah. and so you don't know if Kellogg had happened to work for one of the other drag saw manufacturers and kind of figured out, you know, learned the craft or not, because I believe that the Wolf Iron Works came in later than some of them. The Vons and the Wades, I believe, were earlier, weren't they?
You know, I don't know, because these go way back before my time as far as the drag saws.
So the period of time you were spending time there, when was that?
That was from about 1948 to about 52 or 53.
Okay, okay. So towards the very end of the drag saw, yeah.
Ken?
Yeah, Kellogg died in the 60s, and then his nephew bought it after that.
Okay,
You were asking that question,
okay.
and his nephew bought it,
And what was the nephew's name?
Robert Dietrich.
Okay, so that was in the 60s.
So it's the 60s when Dietrich took over.
Yeah.
And then Don Rush bought it in 1997.
Okay, so
Yeah,
97.
because Cal has worked after 60s for a while, but I don't know how long.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did they actually go in business with the Kellogg? When did he start building drag stores?
We don't
Yeah,
know
so
that.
We don't
I don't know, it probably started out with the wood framed ones, and I imagine that was back in the maybe 30s even. But I really can't say.
But, so we're pretty sure he had that shop set up before World War II?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It'd been there
Because
for a
the
long.
folks built their house in 1939,
Okay,
and it was there then.
okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I know this is a little bit different than the existing shop, but how does it compare for authenticity of,
Similarity.
of the representation
It's real close.
of the original?
Yeah, it's
Garage.
real close. The only thing that was different is that small lathe was turned the other way up against the wall. And then the rest of it's pretty much the way it was.
Other than a bigger building?
Yeah, the building's a lot bigger.
Did you know this gentleman by the name of Sam Mormon?
Can't place it. no.
That's the one I was talking to you about that wrote that book of poems, Sam.
Mormon?
Mormon is what his name is.
Unless he changed there was because Cal Hess had two kids, Sammy
Yeah.
and Sally. And unless he changed there, Sam Mormon might be
I think
one
it's.
of the Hesses changed his name, I can't tell you for sure, but
Yeah, because they wrote this, where did this came from something that was sent to the grounds here, and it was a letter that he wrote, and it said, Wolf Ironworks. Growing up, Mom took us to visit her family in Portland, Oregon for summer vacations, and when Dad was sent by the Army to places like Korea for the war. We stayed in the big family house Mom grew up in until our grandparents died. After that, we stayed with her sister, Aunt Ruth, and Uncle Kellogg. They had no children, so liked having us around. Ruth cooked while Kellogg stayed at work all day. At night, we three kids lay on the living room carpet watching TV while Kellogg relaxed in his recliner with a beer and a cigarette and read the newspaper. When I asked him something, he always looked right at me like I was important and answered quietly, sometimes with a chuckle. When my bicycle or anything broke, Aunt Ruth said, take it to Kellogg at the shop. Wolf Ironworks was an easy walk at one end of the block my grandparents owned. The block where most of their kids, my aunts and uncles built houses and lived. My mom would be there except she married a soldier and moved around the world. Parked outside the shop was Kellogg's big red flatbed truck, which Mom let us ride in the back of, standing up and holding on when he drove to the mountains for weekends at his cabin in Brightwood. We fished from the rocky point of land he owned, where the Sandy and the Salmon rivers merged, ate fish and pancakes. Aunt Ruth cooked on the wood-burning stove and slept in the cozy flannel sheets, lulled by the roar of the river. Inside the wood swinging doors of his shop, the concrete floor was greasy black, machines whirled noisily, and the air smelled oily. Kellogg would stop his work, ask, and what have we here today, Sammy? Once he studied something for a long time, standing in the greasy overalls, and finally said, he goes, I think to put on my glasses to fix this. While he worked and walked in back across a wobbly wood deck to eat purple plums of a tree, he made a coiled caddy to wind up a yard hose and something for Blue Bell potato chips. Today, my aunts and uncles do not live on the family block or anywhere. Their homes are owned by people I don't know. I'm old and an uncle. The Big Wolf Ironworks sign is gone, and inside the drill press and metal lathes have been removed. The oil-stained floor and wood walls are stacked with shelves of unglazed white clay pottery and his busy ceramics workshop. A cousin said the original machines are now at Antique Powerland, a cluster of museums for classic equipment in Brooks near the freeway south of Portland. Another cousin said, did you know Kellogg was a millionaire? She thought he had some patent on the motorized drag saws he made long ago, precursor of today's chainsaws and electric reciprocating saws. But another cousin scoffed, if he had any money, we never saw it. He had no kids and none of our family got anything. Driving south of Portland on the back roads, a local suggested I take a shortcut to Brooks, which rewarded me with a line of vehicles at a small river where I enjoyed $2 crossing on the Wheatland Ferry. It was like stepping back in time, fittingly, for I next arrived at Antique Powerland. All the buildings were locked or deserted, though the entry sign said it was open March to October from Wednesday through Sunday, 9 to 5, admission $5. I learned the place booms during its annual Great Oregon Steam Up on the last weekend in July and first weekend in August. There are over 15 specific museums, one for old trucks, one for trains, and lots of vintage farm equipment scattered around the grounds. I hailed a man walking around the replica railroad station, and he pointed me to a new building that would house the Wolf Ironworks. But he cautioned, don't hold your breath, that it would be ready for the next steam up because they needed $20,000 to finish it. The wood building is gorgeous vertical board and batt with clean concrete floors, not like the wiggly, oily floor Kellogg worked on. Peeking in the windows, I saw his shop equipment was not yet connected to the overhead drive belt. A greasy pair of pinstripe overalls, like he wore, might be his originals. 2 big red crank pump containers marked Quaker State Oil on the wall. Kellogg would have loved this new shop and finished it and moved right in where he lived. So the rest of it is just off our website.
Yeah, because the Hesses owned probably more than a city block from between 60th and 59th, and from Killingsworth down to Simpson, they owned a large section. There was an old house about halfway through that block, the old family house, and it was like a 3-story house. And Paul Hess, which was a brother of Cal Hess, had the Shell service station up on the corner, and he was there for years and years and years. In fact, his dog bit me one time, but I never forget that. I used to deliver papers, and they had the dog on a chain, and I'd walk right around where they could see the grass wouldn't grow. One day about 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm coming by there, and that chain broke. And that dog had me good. And Mrs. Hess came out, she heard all the rum, but boy, she loaded me in the car, took me right down to the hospital, got me a tetanus shot. But yeah, they owned a lot of property. In fact, when I was a kid, they had grapes. The old man Hess. And I was in there, a friend of mine, stealing grapes one night, and I heard the shotgun go off, and I never went back in that grape patch. But yeah, it brings back good memories, you know. The Kellogg, he liked kids, though. And he was always really good to the kids around there.
So that is the Sammy, you're pretty sure that's the same?
It could be. The last name of it had to have been Hess, unless he changed it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. I have to ask him and find out, because, like I said, there were 2 kids from down the Hess side there. Paul Hess, I don't think had any kids either.
And they must have somehow been related to Kellogg.
Some way or the other. Because Kellogg eventually built his house down there on part of that Hess property.
Anybody else have any questions of any significance for this Wolf Ironworks? Really appreciate your input.
Yeah, like I said, I'm still digging through my things, and a friend of mine's just trying to get some more pictures. But I'll
If we can come up with pictures, we'll blow them up, put them on the wall so people can see what it was. And if you get an opportunity, sit and write all this stuff down, make us a little logbook.
Well, that's kind of why she's videoing.
Yeah.
And it probably won't be
Even about the dog?
Yeah. I'm afraid the volume might not come across on the camera, is the reason I asked that.
Yeah, I can do that.
well, and Phil, this will probably not be the last time we bother you with questions, so.
Anytime.
We appreciate it, so.